Hello and welcome to the Daily Mill for Friday the 31st of May 2024. In today's Millwall news, we have this. Yes, Millwall news, not Crystal Palace news, and you'll find out in a minute why. This is from londonnewsonline.co.uk. They put this up this morning. They were the first ones to put this up, and then several other websites followed. Crystal Palace duo could be on Millwall loan radar when summer transfer window progresses. Crystal Palace are set to wait until the middle of July to make a decision on whether to loan out Jesurun, Rak-Sakyi and David Ozoh. Millwall are admirers of the pair but will not consider temporary transfers until much further into the summer transfer window. Suffolk-born Rak-Sakyi, 21, is expected to be subject of every interest if he is made available. The winger, capped by England at under-20 level, scored 15 goals and collected 9 assists in the dazzling loan at Charlton in the 22-23 season. Rak-Sakyi made 6 appearances in the Premier League for Palace in the campaign just completed, with hamstring injuries sidelining him for more than 5 months. Powerful midfielder Ozoh, 19, has featured 10 times for the Eagles in the top flight, all of them as a substitute. So, there you go, that's it, short and sweet. What is it? What's the story? There doesn't seem to be much here. There's barely anything here. What? Crystal Palace could loan these players out, and they could be loaning them to Millwall, but they could not as well. So there's not really any story here. It's just speculation. And if we read the first 2 lines, so Crystal Palace are set to wait until the middle of July. Well, yeah, because they're going to come back in. They're going to have pre-season training about 2 weeks in, and then they'll make the decision then. And the obvious conclusion is that the guy was on loan in League One, not last. If you see, it says 22-23. That wasn't last season. That was the season before. So he was out on loan in a League One club. He came back, and they used him in the Premier League sparingly, but he got injured. So that means they might loan him out to a Championship team. And then it says Millwall are admirers of the pair but will not consider temporary transfers too much further in the summer transfer window. So yeah, it doesn't seem to be much here. It's not even saying that we are looking at them. It's not saying Crystal Palace will loan them out. It's not even saying Millwall want to loan them out. There's literally nothing here. So, but again, if this is obviously, in my opinion, it looks like there's nothing here. But then if we take it on face value and say, okay, there may be something here. This is basically you're replacing like for like. We have Romain Esse and we have Edomu Maku, which is what these players seem to be replacing. Rak-Sakyi is for Maku, the pacey winger, and Ozoh is for Esse, the midfielder. It's like, why bring them in if we've got those? And then you say, are we going to be loaning them out or getting rid of Esse and Maku? Otherwise, what's the point of bringing these guys in on loan? Doesn't seem to be any point. But that was the big transfer news of the day. Now moving on to this from londonnewsonline.co.uk. Millwall defender McNamara, no reason why playoffs cannot be obtainable goal next season. Danny McNamara sees no reason why Millwall cannot go from relegation battlers to playoff contenders next season. The South Londoners finished the 23-24 Championship campaign bang in form, with only Ipswich Town taking more points than the Lions after Neil Harris was appointed head coach in February. And defender McNamara is confident that the head coach, Mill's all-time leading goalscorer, can have the Den outfit back challenging at the right end of the table. The Lions did not lose on home turf after Harris replaced Joe Edwards, winning 5 of their 6 matches in AC16. The huge swing in form snared a 13th place finish. We can use the experience of this season to go and push up the other end, McNamara told the South London Press. We've been in and around it in the playoffs the past couple of seasons before that, so there's no reason we can't. Hopefully we can bring in a few more players to strengthen up our squad. We'll go again and give it a good go. A chopper coming in lifted the group massively. We were really down low. Results and performances weren't going our way. I think Neil was touched on it, but coming to the Den was quite intimidating because we weren't getting results. Under Neil, we were expected to go to the Den, and we couldn't wait to be there. We feel like we can turn it around. We can turn anyone over there now. It's weird how football works. I don't think there was anyone better than Neil to come in and do the job. It's a massive achievement. It was about going back to that Mill way, being hard and horrible to play against, winning your 1v1 battles, winning every battle all over the pitch, running more than the opposition. We're not the best team in the league, but we'll work hard and Mill fans will get behind us. As long as we're giving all, we've got back to basics. Indeed. I'm going to say something here that's probably not going to strike a nerve with a few of you listening. This isn't good enough. Why are you aiming to get in the playoffs? You should be aiming to win the league. Stop laughing. You said it right there. Since Neil Harris came in, the very same players who were so shit before, got turned around and were the second best team in the fucking league, which is promotion, is it not? Now here's the thing. If we carry that on and we do that over the whole season, why not? If you could do it, then you can do it now. Let's crack on and do it. Don't aim for the fucking playoffs. Aim to fucking finish second, like you say. Win your 1v1s. Run better, run more than the opposition. And get it done. The playoffs isn't an aim. Don't aim for that. Aim to win the fucking league. You can do it. You've proven you can do it. You were the second best team in the league since February. So that should be your aim. And if you think it can't happen, why not? Leicester won the Premier League. They were 500 to 1. How much are Millwall to win the league? I showed you the other day. It's 30 to 1. It's not 500 to 1. It's 30 to 1. And if you think it can't happen, next season, the season coming up, it looks like there's a load of basket cases in the league that ain't being run properly. What's one of the things that Millwall have is that they're being run properly. So much so that when we had a little blip in the point in the manager that nearly got us relegated, the CEO got the tin tack. And the other guy recommended him as well. So there's no reason why we cannot win this league. And the players should be aiming to win the league by aiming to win every match, by aiming to win every battle in every one of those matches, and that's how you do it. This is not good enough saying, oh, maybe we'll try and reach the playoffs. No, you're going to try and win the fucking league, and if you don't get there, maybe you'll get in the playoffs and that'll be okay. But you're going to try and win the league next season. Thank you very much. Now, moving on to this. I don't know how this is going to affect us because our performances in the League Cup have been abysmal forever, ever. This is from the southernnews.co.uk. Let's read this. The seeding change set to come to the Carabao Cup from next season due to the expansion in European competitions. Millwall struggled in the domestic cup competition in recent years. The Carabao Cup could be set to undergo a notable change from next season as officials consider bringing in seeding for the European clubs. The 24-25 season will see the debut of expanded versions of the European competitions, increasing the amount of games in the first half of the season for some sides. This will add strain to an already stuffed footballing calendar and could trigger more changes to domestic cup competitions. The Telegraph report that the football chiefs will implement a seeding mechanism that will prevent Champions League qualifiers from meeting Europa League teams in the third round to help ease fixture congestion. The third round of the cup competition is also set to be spread over 2 weeks. The League Cup already has a seeding system in the first 2 rounds, with teams based in the north and south. Teams based in the south prevented from being drawn against each other. That's not really seeding, though. It's regionalisation. That's not seeding in what I would consider the word of seeding. The EFL are reported to be unhappy with the proposed changes. It's funny that because I thought it was called the EFL Cup. The move comes following the announcement earlier this year that the FA Cup replays were going to be scrapped from the first round onwards. Millwall struggled in the Carabao Cup over the recent seasons, with an idea coming last August when they lost 4-0 at home to League One Reading. Well, this is happening because obviously the Premier League teams want this to happen, and the EFL have basically go to the Premier League with a begging bowl, demanding that the Premier League give them the money that the Premier League earned for free. Well, you don't get nothing for free, and that's what we've seen. More and more demands. The more and more money that the EFL demands from the Premier League, the more and more the Premier League demand back in changes to how the game works. I don't know why they have to be seeded, though. I don't know why. What they do, I think they do this in some like national UEFA competitions. They would draw a team and say, well, they can't play each other, we have to redraw them. Or they'll move them into the next game, and then they'll redraw a ball, and then that will be the game, and then the next ball goes on to the next one. So basically they want teams in Europe to not play each other, which I don't know how that's going to ease fixture congestion. Because they're still going to, they still have to play a game. They still So let's read this. The Telegraph report that football chiefs will implement a seeding mechanism that will prevent Champions League qualifiers from meeting Europa League teams in the third round to help ease fixture congestion. But how it doesn't reduce the amount of fixtures because they still have to play a game. So if they stop European teams from playing each other, surely that would help. If you get who's qualified for the Champions League this year? So let's say you got Man City versus Liverpool in the third round of the Carabao Cup. Well, they play each other. So one of them's going to get knocked out. That's less fixtures for them, isn't it? So, but then if you have, say, Man City versus Northampton and Liverpool versus Bromley, they're likely to win those games and likely to go through the next round and likely to have more games in the competition. So I don't see how that's going to ease fixture congestion. That doesn't really make any sense to me, but like I said, it's highly unlikely to affect Millwall in any way because probably not going to get out in the first round again, which is a shame. I understand why this is not taken as seriously. It's a midweek competition, and the crowds are not that good for midweek games for us. And the prize money is less, and all of that. The crowds don't turn up, so I understand why we don't take it seriously. But I wish that we would. I do wish that we would. We've got an awful record in this competition. Now, moving on to this. This is from the Irish Independent. It's an interview they did with David Forde. Remember him? I started meditating 15 years ago and people thought I was a lunatic. From winning 24 Island Caps to studying in Hindu scriptures, former goalkeeper has never been afraid to do things his own way. There are a few things that catch your eye in David Forde's office. On his shelf lies his 2013-14 Player of the Year award from his Millwall days. Beside that is a green and gold commemorative Ireland cap, having made 24 appearances for the national side. A maroon and white Ireland jersey from his 2011 debut against Northern Ireland hangs proudly on the wall too. All pieces of football memorabilia collected along his 2-decade career, from his formative years at Galway United all the way up to the highs of taking on England at Wembley Stadium and going to European Championship with Giovanni Trapattoni's squad in 2012. But over the 44-year-old's shoulder, there are a couple of other things you wouldn't necessarily expect to find in a footballer's home. Under that prized Ireland shirt are several talismans, objects believed to bring good luck or to keep one safe from harm. They are all very symbolic of my journey, he says. A bow and arrow he received from the Native American Hopi tribe symbolises the inner warrior, the importance of setting targets. An axe he picked up while visiting a Navajo nation in Arizona sits next to a fixture, a figure of Hanuman, a deity in Hinduism. He's due to visit India later this year, but closer to home, his bodhran on the shelf represents his Celtic heritage. Forde has never been afraid to tread his own path. After hanging up his boots in 2019, having made more than 600 senior appearances across the UK and Ireland, the former goalkeeper now works at Pathfinder, a company he co-founded that provides high-performance coaching and mentoring. He's also worked as head of psychology at Crystal Palace, and most recently as high-performance mental skills coach with the Highland senior squad. However, his own mental health journey long precedes his retirement. When Forde began meditating as a player, he admits some teammates thought he was strange. But he says mindfulness and working on his own emotional well-being have paid dividends, not just in football, but in life. I started meditating 15 years ago, and at the time people thought I was a lunatic. I'd be sitting there chanting mantras and mindfulness and all sorts of other things. But now it's all mainstream. I find it was the greatest tool to getting my mind focused, Forde tells the Irish Independent from his London home. I'm pleased to have experienced it at all levels, from the League of Ireland to being at a Premier League club for almost 3 years, to the pinnacle of international football. I was one of the lucky ones who got a broad insight into the whole 9 yards. I always had that dream and ambition to play for Ireland, and that was a number one calling. But for me, it always felt like my career came to me late, getting into the Irish team at 31 years old and then making my competitive debut at 33. That's the oldest in Irish history. And those are things I cherish, but there was a lot of pain and suffering up to those points. After impressing with his native Galway United before a spell with Welsh side Barry Town, Forde earned a move to Premier League West Ham aged 22. A season on loan at Derry City followed before he returned on a permanent deal in 2004 to become Candy Stripes' number one under Stephen Kenny, helping the club to a 2006 FAI Cup triumph. A second big move across the water followed in 2007, signing for Cardiff City, but he finally settled at Millwall the following year and spent the next 8 seasons at a South East London side. As he got to grips with the realities of being a professional footballer, the trials and tribulations, the defeats and setbacks, Forde's resilience was tested on many occasions. Resilience is a word that comes up several times over the course of our conversation. I have the resilience and grit to keep going. One thing about my nature is to be undefeated. to step over that wide line and with much responsibility as a goalkeeper. It comes with a big burden, the torment of all that, explains Forde, who retired 5 years ago. When I changed my mindset, it was like a flick of a switch into a healthier way of perceiving, and then my career just started to open up and the real potential started to come in. As a young lad, I was always told that I had great potential, and it used to drive me insane. The biggest breakthrough was in my emotional maturity and how to handle the highs and lows and the expectation of being a professional footballer. People look at professional football, the glitz and the glamour, which it is, but when you're in it, it's your job and you're working, it can actually be quite boring. It's just eat, sleep, play and repeat. And the curse of any football is time. You've got so much time. You start overthinking and that create anxiety and fear. And the mind can get very negative. For me, it was about turning my own mind into my best friend. When I got to the UK at 21, I started to utilise the spare time. And I was always researching coaches and therapies. I was fascinated with different coaches from all over the world, the science of living. While Forde says he has encountered many turning points in his life, in terms of his emotional well-being, the major moment arrived when he was 30, when his sister Adele encouraged him to speak to someone. He had previously said that at one point he was basically losing his mind. Well, it's a scary place. People say to me all the time, I'm losing my mind. And I'm like, yeah, I've lost it many times myself. In sport, in my love for the game, I was just taking things too seriously, he says. I didn't view it like it's not life or death. The world won't come crumbling in. You'll still be okay. That's where a lot of my own mental health started to kick in. I was losing a lot of joy in it and what I was actually doing. The main game changer came when I started to break down and have some injuries at 30. And just when I was about to get into the Irish team, I wasn't blessed enough in terms of being financially secure for the rest of my life. I still had a mortgage to pay off, but there's a beauty in that too. Because it keeps me alive, it keeps me fighting, and it keeps me dancing. And that's when I really started to look at my mindset and emotional well-being and get my mind right. I studied meditation, the mind and other ancient scriptures, and now I teach that stuff. After winning his final Irish cap in June 2016 before being left out of Martin O'Neill's squad for Euro 2016, Forde returned to the camp in March 2021 as a high-performance mental skills and cultural coach under his former Derry City boss, Kenny. Forde relished his 19th spell back in the 19-month spell back in the national team, set up and house Kenny's legacy, having handed competitive debuts to 24 players over his 40-match reign before departing the post last November. Well, Stephen did a phenomenal job of Ireland. We went toe-to-toe with the likes of Portugal and Serbia. Fine margins. His whole Irish career could have gone a whole different way, says Forde. He's a very determined man. The one thing I would never do with Stephen is underestimate him. He cares deeply about his players and about Irish football, and oftentimes he would talk about how he used to go over as a fan to watch Jack. He's a national treasure to Irish football. The team are a serious group of young men, and it was an absolute honour to work with them. And part of what I was doing was getting the mindset right, understanding our culture and our heritage, and having a support network there for players and staff. Having worked closely with the next generation of Irish goalkeepers in Gavin Bazuma and Cian Kelleher, Forde smiles when he's asked to reflect on his own international career. The memories and his pride in wearing a shirt on his wall will never fade. Well, it goes beyond pride. It's just total satisfaction. The satisfaction I feel when I even talk about Ireland, it goes straight to my heart. It sits so gently in my heart, he grins. There's not one part I look back and say I wish I did this or that. I did everything I could. And I remember going into my first camp and I was asked how many caps I wanted. I said, Jesus, if I got one, I'll be doing fucking somersaults. And I didn't get to live my dream once. I got to live it 24 times. And when I was working with Ireland, I put together stats of the number of players who've managed to play for our country. Break that number down again, and how many goalkeepers have played for Ireland in the past 100 years. Not many. To be part of that club is very special, and looking back on all of that, it's like a dream, and it actually feels like a lifetime ago. So there you go. That is an interview with a former Millwall goalkeeper, David Forde. And on that note, thank you for watching. and goodbye.